In this YouTube video, I'm going to go over Chapter 15 and 16 in Access 2010, the Missing Manual, which basically cover macros in Access. Macros are automated actions that update data and do a lot of Access actions automatically. So I'm going to open up this database here. It's cool, at the end of the video I'm going to show you how to manage inventory with Access, and it'll just update numbers in one table based on another table, and you could also like audit and keep track of record deletions and stuff, but I'm going to do the basic stuff first. So I have Access open. You go to create and macro, and that's how you create your first macro, and here are all the different actions you can select. There are 67 of them, and then if you click here it actually shows like 87 of them because it adds extra when you click show all actions, but I'll go into that later. So what I created was an open table macro over here. I saved it over here, so I'm just going to open that up, close out that macro without saving it. So I'm going to open this in design view because that's how you basically just go to edit the macros. So the first thing I added was an open table, and I opened up the pets table in view datasheet, and data mode is add, and then go to record. This action goes to the table pets, and then the record is new. So what this macro basically accomplishes is it opens up pets, and then it goes to the last record, and then it lets you start adding records right away. This is useful if you want to just start adding, like writing records, but there's the form that I show you later lets you add records a lot quicker. But that's like the open table and the go to record action. So I'm just going to run this macro by double clicking it on the navigation panel. So that opened up pets, and then I could just start typing like dog, cat, 9, right, and then see dog, cat, 9, is at the bottom of the table. So everything I just wrote there just got added to the pets table. So the important thing about this is you have to open it in datasheet view in order to edit it, because if you open it in design view then you can't edit it, and if you do like edit you won't be able to add new records. So that's how that works. And then here's like a Messagebox macro, so whenever you run it, it just shows up a pop-up window, and later on I'll show you how to do a yes or a no, and then you could basically do an if statement for the yes and then an if statement for the no, so the user can make decisions. But for now it just says you ran a Messagebox macro, and here's what that looks like. So you could basically create macro, and then for that you select Messagebox, and then up here it has whatever you want the message to be, and then this will just be like the title bar of the message box. I'll show you that now too. And anytime you want to save a macro, you just close it out and then you write the name of it, and you click yes when you close it out, or you press Control S to save it, and then it'll appear in the navigation bar. So I'm going to double click this, and then it says title bar of the message box at the top. And now I'm going to show you can reorder the macros. You just in open table. So to reorder them, you basically drag it like that, and you can reorder them. You can click this X here to delete a step. These are each called, I guess, steps. Each action is like a single step. You can add you can add a comment and just write whatever, like the first you can like keep track of the comments in case you build like a really long macro. You could minimize the steps by pressing like that, or you could do it this way: expand actions, collapse all. And then over here you could click group. So these like first four, they're not in alphabetical order because they're used so often, like comment, group, if, and sub macro. So group, what group basically does is it'll execute all these actions together in a group. But overall, macros, they always execute from the top to the bottom. So when you're ordering it, like if you put go to record before open table and you don't have the table open, it won't work. So you have to have the open table first. So it always executes from the top to the bottom. And sub macro is basically the same as group. It's just, yeah, it's basically the same thing. But now I'm just gonna go over like more boring stuff, and then eventually it'll get more interesting. But here's how you debug. So to debug, you go to design and single step. So you have to be in design view for the macro, and then go to single step, which it indents it, and then you can click run. So I must save the macro before I run it, so I'm going to click yes. So what this does is it mentions the action here: open table, and here are the arguments for it, which is table, datasheet, add. And then when I click step, it goes to the next action, which is go to record. So now it opened up table, and this one, it'll go to the first record of this table and it'll add a new record. So I'll click step, and then that's basically the macro, stepping through the macro steps. So if I go to do that again, and then I click, if I click stop all macros, it stops it. If I press continue after I press step, then it'll execute everything after that without stopping. And like, you know how I added show all actions over here? So basically access doesn't, you have to click here in order to get access to saving objects, deleting objects, running VB code, which I'll go over in the next video, sending an email, or running SQL. Like some of these, like run SQL, are some of these actions just aren't shown unless you click show all actions, just because access, you have to know what you're doing, and I mean, you won't even be able to be on the screen anyway if you didn't know what you're doing. So it's just another way access has of hiding stuff. So another thing is when you open up a database with macros in it, you'll sometimes see a security warning at the top, and the security warning will be like, it'll look like this. Say like some active content has been disabled, click for more details. So you could click enable, and from then on your access will trust the database if it's saved locally, but if it's saved on a network, you'll have to enable it every time. But to actually control that even further, you go to File, Options, and Trust Center, and Trust Center Settings, and go to Macro Settings. So you can click Enable All Macros, which lets all the macros run for this database. And like the next time Access opens this database, your computer will look to the Windows registry and it'll notice that you already trusted it. So it'll remember that, and then the next time it'll trust the same database. So that's like, it'll be temporary trust if you open it and you enable it from a network drive though. But if you open it locally, saved on your desktop or something, and you enable it, then it'll work forever, permanently. And then you could go to trusted locations, and you could, down here you could click allow trusted locations on my network. If you do that, then when you add a new location here, and if it's on a shared network drive, then it'll automatically trust anything saved on a shared network drive. But I'm just going to do add new location, and then browse, and I'll select this, and OK. So now you can trust any database saved in this folder or any folders within the folder, and you could add a description here like trust this shared drive. Press OK, and then whenever you open a database from that location, it'll work. And then if it's on a network drive, you just check here and then press OK. So that's how you enable a trusted location, so you don't accidentally open databases from other places and like from a customer and then run unsafe macros. You can do this in Excel too. And now I'm going to show you a find record macro. So what this one does is go to chapter 16. So I'm going to add an open form to this first. And I'm just going to open up animal types, form, and normal mode. And I'm just going to add this up here. And then it's going to go to this field, which is diet. So this is one of the fields, is diet in this form, the same as the table. And then what it's going to find is it's going to equal the search text. So if I go to design view, and then up here I wrote search text as this column. So it's going to search for whatever I type up here. So I'm going to write hey here. So it searched for hay, and it found it when I click search. So what I did on here is I went to design and search, and this command button, it has an event which I attached to it, like I showed in the last video, part 3 and 4. And I attached this macro to it. So the find what is equals search text, and the name of this control for this text box. So what I did is I went to design, and here is text box, and I add this to the form here, and I basically changed the name to search text over here, and the other on the property sheet, which is on design property sheet. So I changed that to search text. So whatever you write there, you could click search, and then I attach the search is basically this command button here, which I drew down here, and then I select miscellaneous and run macro, and I attached this find hay eater macro that I created to this command button on the event sheet. So find hay eater on form, on click. So when you click this search button in form view, it searches for whatever you type here, and then it puts it over here. I mean, it searches for whatever you type here in the form database table, and it'll go to that first record. And then over here I have clear text on form. So what this does is that search box that you write stuff in equals search text. It sets the value equal to blank, or 2 double quotes, which it means it sets it to blank. So I'm just going to click yes. So click clear. And when you click clear, it clears out the text you write. So it's a quick way to like search and delete stuff on forms, to search for stuff in a table. And the next section I'll go into a little bit more with that. And I mean, this is basically a set value action in the macro. So the search text, just double quotes, and then say if you want to set the value to no, just click save. So when I click clear, it just sets it to no. So you could set a value on a text control and then search it. So now I'm going to open up a different database. And I'm going to show you the email macro. You can email like an Excel sheet, a PDF, etc. So wrong chapter. I'm going to open it up over here. So you could email one person, you can email multiple people. So here is the macro. Basically it's email database objects, it's the action, and object type I'm going to just select table. You can select query, form, report, and then you select whatever the name is of the table, and then the output format I did PDF, and then you type in the email here. And then if you want 2 emails, you could do second email after a semicolon. I'm just going to do 1 email, and then you do the subject here, and you could write like this is the like the body of the email, the paragraph section, and then the edit message yes is it lets you review the email before you send it, or you can put no if you just want it to send without prompting you to send it. So I'm going to click yes, and so I'm going to run this macro. So basically it fills in the whatever username you had, fills in the subject I had here, and then here is the customers table right here. And it has more columns than fit on this sheet, so it actually puts extra columns to the right on the second page. So you could reformat your table or make it a report or form like I showed before, so it actually gets sent properly. Now I'm going to open up a different database. Oh, actually, I don't need to. This one's fine. So I guess on the customer sign up sheet, I'm going to go to design view, and then click design up here on the ribbon, and then go to property sheet. and on event. So on event you could have on load when the form loads, or on click when you click the form, or like after update when something changes. Then something, you could have a macro for after it's updated, or you could have after insert, or on dirty when everything is changed, or on double click, or when the mouse or key presses happen. You could have like different text boxes become disabled and you can't enter data after you enter data. You could have like boxes get checked based on other boxes. And you basically, I don't really do them for forms, but when I add a command button from design view over here, then you could click run macro, or you could like open forms, but let's just do run macro for this. And you could attach like a macro here, or you could just click finish, and then, so here's the embed macro. You could select all the macros here, or you could click the ellipsis here and then edit whatever the macro is for that button. So on this customer's form, I added a text box over here. So I'm going to go to design view, and I basically added a text box, which is this control on the design. So I added that here, and basically I set the name to equals search text. It's just search text on the other, and I also added a command button here, and on the event I had it attached to I attached run macro to it. Which is this macro. So this is the macro that runs when you click this button. So what it does is it equals search text. So whatever I write in this text box, kind of like the hey example before, it'll match any part of the field. Doesn't need to be upper or lowercase, and it could be in any part of the field. You could have exact match or start of the field. And first, so I'm just going to demonstrate this. So let's say I'm going to show the customers tab table first. So here are all the customers. So I'm going to search for, I guess, Lisa. So I'm just going to type in Lisa, press that. So what this does is it goes to the Lisa customer on this form. So if you're trying to find a customer, you could just type their name and then search here instead of going through your database. And then the cool thing about this customer's form is it has a subform for, let me open up the table relationship. So it has customers attached to orders. So the customers are the one and the many. They can make many orders, each of the customers. So the subform over here has all the orders that Lisa did. So if I open up orders, I guess her name is Lisa Lamone. Yeah, Lisa Lamone. So she did 1 and 2. So you could actually expand the many in this subform. So here's like the order is 1, and then there are multiple orders that are part of that order. So here are the order details. So you have the subform with the orders, which also has the subform with the order details. Product ID, price, and quantity. Yeah, so it also has the order details underneath that. So you have the customers, and then you have the orders, and then you have the order details. So you can pull up her orders, and then you could also pull up her order details, and then you could just add new records here on the form. Let's say for ID 1, she orders a croissant. That was 99 and 2. Oh god. Go to customers and orders and 1. Whatever. Order details. No. Alright, whatever. I'll go over that in a different video. I mean, at the end of the video I show you how to update inventory and stuff, so that's like, you have like the data event queries, which is way better than form stuff, but that's how you can find stuff really quickly. And you'll just have to apply that to the end of the video. And then oh yeah, you could do like on customer sign up. Oh my god. So if you check this box and then you click this, I wrote a macro that says you didn't supply an email address, please enter an email address. And then you could also just press yes if you want to ignore that you didn't write an email address. So press yes, and it'll actually just generate the email anyway. But since I didn't write an email address, it'll just fill in this up here. So you have to like write in your email address. And then, yeah, it'll basically send it that way. So let's say I just write in at gmail.com. It won't actually prompt me because I actually filled it out properly. So here's write in at gmail.com. So whatever I wrote there, what I did was I attached this text box to the email. So, and then this command button, it fills in whatever I write in here into the email. So before, what I did was it had just whatever default email I had and the macro, but now you could just write it in the text box and then click this button and it fills in whatever you write. So the form, just you write on it and then it'll fill in the emails. So now if I go to design view, and over here I open up this macro. So what this macro does is, so I used the if action, which is it's like at the top of the add new actions, it's if right there. So if email address, let's see, this one is called email address, this text box. So if the email address is null and wants email is -1, so this checkbox is wants email, as you can see on the property sheet, wants email. So when it's checked, that's -1, and which means -1 equals checked and 0 equals not checked. So if the email address is blank and you check that you wanted an email, then it cancels the action and it says you didn't supply an email address, please enter an email address, press yes if you want to continue. And I did a message box in this if statement, and then I filled the text within this double quotes here, and then for the argument I put equals 6. So if this message box, if what you decide here is 6, let me scroll to that. Oh, yeah, so if you click 6, that means yes, and then 7 is no. So if you click no, then it goes to the end of the end if. But if you click yes, then it'll go to this over here, which is email database object. So then over here it'll check if null equals false and wants email equals -1. So here's how you could use like the if is null equals false. And then for the action email database object, you just write equals email address, and this is the text control name over here. So email address is email address for this one right here. So you set the 2 equal to that text control name, and then basically it'll send. So you could work like play around with like =6 or =7 to, let me demonstrate that. So over here on form view, I'm just going to check here and then not fill this out and then press send the email. And then here's the yes and the no for this message box. Normally message box just have okay, but you can make it say yes or no, and then you could also do actions based on if you say yes or if you say no. So if I say yes here, it sends the email and then just writes email address at the top because it's blank here. Or if I press no, then nothing happens because that's how it's written. And then so that's how you can send an email based on whatever you're filling out on this form. So you could just like type like customer and then like tab through and then like type their email and then send it really quick. So it's like a fast way to send an email. And here's another action, which is run macro. So you can basically select another macro at the bottom of a macro and then add a macro within your macro and run macros while you run macros. It runs from the top to the bottom. And then now I'm going to show you table events, which is cool for inventory tracking. So basically this is like this is where Access actually starts to become useful. So I'm going to open up the customers table over here, customers, and I'm going to go to table and before change. So this table, it has basically these are table events. So you could have before change, you could have before delete, after insert, after update, after delete, or you can work on a name macro, which you can refer to in these other macros. So you can refer to other macros within macros on table events. So I'm going to click before change. It's indented here, so that means that it has a macro here. But I'm going to click on, before I do that, I'm going to go to name macros and rename delete macro. So this shows all the different macros here. So this is event data macro, event data macro. So this is the customers table and the products table. So both of these tables have event data macros, before change, before change. So I'm going to click before change here. And for the customers table, if wants email equals yes and email address is null, it's going to raise the error 4001 and you didn't supply an email address. This is going to be the description. So it's just a basic table event. So basically what this does is, if say I add a new record here, say I'm typing in records and I check this and then I don't go here and then I don't write an email address, and I just go to the next record, it'll just pop up and say you didn't supply an email address. Because if this is true, then this can't be blank. So that's a way you can force whoever is entering data to acknowledge that they didn't enter it properly. if you're manually entering data instead of like inserting it to update it. And basically the wants email, and then let me just write something. Email address at gmail.com. So so say if I do like email address, see this is email address field and this is wants email columns, and if I go to that table before change, so here's those columns, wants email equals yes, and email address is null. So that's how you can run that table event. But I got cooler table events now. So another thing you could do is, instead of like, so if wants email is yes and is null email address, then you can, instead of like raise error, I'm just gonna close that out, and I'm gonna add it nested underneath this if statement, because it's a part of the if statement before the end if, and because you got the if statement here, it has if and then end if, and you put it the actions in between it that you want to happen if it's true. So if this stuff here that you wrote here is true, then this action gets executed. Otherwise it just goes to the end if and it skips to the next action. So I'm going to go to set field, and for the name is wants email. I'm just going to type it and then click there, and then the value is going to be equals no. So basically what this does is, if you have the checkbox checked and email address is blank, then it's just going to automatically set it to no. So I'm going to save this, close it out, and I'm going to just click here and then go to the next record. Oh, I should set the email address field, not wants email, because email address is the, so I'm going to check wants email and then go to like the next thing, and then if I didn't, then it just fills it in as no. So the set field just sets a default value. Now I'm going to open up a different database and show how to track inventory with data table events, which is way cooler. You could do this with like Excel VBA with a lot of column concatenations and sorting and pivot tables and like lining up all the columns and just looping through everything and just updating it as you go. But here's a way to do it in Access, a different way to keep track of inventory. So you could do it in Microsoft Access, or you could do it in Excel. And with Access, you can keep track of it on a daily basis. You could do that in Excel too. So I'm going to go to the products table. So before let's see, I'm going to go to products audit. So say if I have products audit opened in design view, and then for the products table I have an after update query. Say let me just go to this update query. So if I update the price within the products table, what it'll do is in the products audit table, it'll add all this stuff here that I wrote, which I'll explain a little bit. So if I change this price, then it'll update the record on this products audit table. But if I have the products audit table open in design view, that means the table is locked, and I'm not able to update it. So say if I try to run, if I update a price and the after update table event is written and stuff, but I also have the table where it gets written to open in design view, then Access won't update it. And so if you go to File, Options, did I click File Info? File Info and Application Log. So it'll add like an error here, and it'll say it's opened, so you can't add a record to something that's in design view, or the primary key, like any errors with like the primary keys. So I'm just going to demonstrate this real quick. So I'm going to change this price to 17. Now I'm just going to open up Info, Application Log. Wait, let me close both these out. File, Info, Application Log. So here is, it gives you a time too. So here's 10:55. So this didn't update. So whenever you're working with table events, make sure you don't have different tables open in design view. So I'm going to explain the price update one, I think. Yeah, I'm going to do the price update one. So here's products and here's products audit. So I'm going to close products audit. Notice how there's only like 3 records right now. So I'm going to change I'm going to change the first record to 9999, and then I'm going to close it out. So products audit table, now it has the new value 9999 and it has the old value 17, and it just says updated price, and ID here is 41. So I'm going to go to table and after update. So this ID here, 41, it's just an auto. It gives it an auto number in this case, but you can actually link the fields, which I'll show in the delete table event. So you could delete. In the delete table event, I'll show you how to link the ID also, so it'll keep the same ID of the record. But for now, this will just add a auto number ID, because I didn't refer to that column in the macro. So if I go to table and after update, so here's how this one works. It's basically if the price column gets updated, then what it does is it creates a record in this table, products audit, and then it names the products audit as an alias as BA. You can write anything here like M, or like it could be like one letter, but I did PA for product audit. And basically aliases are shorthands for tables. So being that I'm working with the products and the products audit table, similar to my second video where we worked with functions in Access and you had 2 tables, and in order to differentiate tables, you wrote the table name dot the column name or the field name. So in this one, it's the same kind of scenario, except so you can use an alias here or there or in SQL, and because aliases are part of SQL too. And basically, so the alias here is PA, and then the set field over here is PA dot new value. So the name is products audit dot new value as the column, and then the value gets set to the products dot the price. So this is whatever the new price you type in the products table is the value that gets put onto the products audit. And then this set field sets PA dot old value is the name of the second column is old value, and the value gets set to be old.price. So whatever the old price was on the products table before you change it, you write old here to get the value before it was changed. And these are just 3 set fields underneath the nested under the created record, so these all get executed in that record. And I'll just show it again real quick. So price, I'm going to change this to 10,000 and close this out. See, here is 10,000 and the old value is 9999. So that's how you can create a table based on changes in other tables, and also work with aliases. Aliases can be used in create record. Let me go to products table after update. So they could be used with create a record. They could be used, alias could be used with create a record, edit record, lookup record, for each record. And then now I'm going to show you after delete. So table after delete. So basically in this one, whenever I delete a record, so after I delete a record, it creates a record in the audit. It sets the action column, it's called action, and then it sets the value to equals deleted record. And then it sets the old value column equal to old.price, so whatever the price was before you deleted it. And then the field, it sets that the field is called ID, and it sets it to the old ID. So this is how you actually keep the ID that you want instead of just the auto number randomly generating. You just basically do old.id and it'll, so I'm just going to delete 3 on here. Yes, and then go to products audit. So here is 3 right here. And here's the action column, is called delete record. And then here's the old value was whatever the old price was, and then it kept the ID here. So I'm just going to show that again because we got 1, 2, 3, 40, 41, and 42 on here. So I'm going to delete 43. Yes. And go to products audit. So here is 43 now. So it maintains the same ID in case you need to keep track of the ID field, or like the primary key. And then, so I'm going to show you how to create a named macro. So in products, table, name macro, create named macro. So up here you could create parameters. So you basically type like product ID and create parameter stock change, and then you could just like add a description for the parameter. And then over here you just start adding like whatever you need to for this macro, and then you can refer to this macro in other macros. So I'm just going to close this out and actually open up a name parameter already made on the orders details table. So name macro, notice how edit name macro wasn't available in the products table, but if I go to rename tables or rename table events, then it shows customers table has the event data macro, products has like the after delete and after update, which I just showed you, and then order details has these event macros, but then it has the name data macro here, which is the custom one with the parameters, and it's called adjust product stock as the name, and you can rename it here. So you could rename it from adjust product stock. So you go to like after insert over here has order details dot adjust product stock. So that's how you can like refer to this name macro in after inserts. But basically, I'm going to show you how to do like the inventory. So you go to edit name macro, adjust product stock, and so I got product ID, stock change. So basically it's going to look up in the products table, and the condition is where the ID equals the product ID. So order details and products are two tables that are used, and they're linked via these two columns, ID and product ID. I'm going to show that now before I explain the rest of the macro. I'm going to close this out and go to table relationships. So here is order details, and here is the products table. So the products table has the ID column, which is linked to product ID and order details. And products is the one, and order details is many. So each product can have many details. So I'm going to go to order details, table, name macros, edit. So it's going to look up in products where the primary key in products is ID, and it's equal to the product ID column in the order details table. So it's going to edit the record, and it's going to edit products.units in stock. So it's going to edit in this table products, it's going to edit this column units in stock, and the value is going to be products.units in stock plus order details.stock change. So whenever you change this column stock change, the number here, and then close out the order details table, then this units in stock column within the products table gets updated, and it adds whatever number you have in this column. So I'm going to close this, and on the order details for chocolate jasmine tea, let me go to products. So products, I'm going to go to fruits and vegetables. So the fruits and vegetables, it just has 10 units in stock. So I'm going to go to order details now. It doesn't have a fruits and vegetables on here. Let's see, it has coconut syrup on here once. So I'm going to go to, I guess, products. So coconut syrup. I'm going to adjust coconut syrup to be like a really big number so you can see the change. So instead of 10, it's 9, a really big 9. I'm going to close out products now. So nothing happens in the order details table because the products table gets changed based off of the order details table. So now I'm just going to make a coconut syrup 1, and now in the order detail I'm going to do stock. I'm going to change the stock change column, and I'm just going to make this really big number, and then I'm going to close out order details, save it, go to products. So now coconut syrup, it added that 9999 to the 1 I had before. So that's how you can update tables based on other tables, and how you could keep like a running total of inventory. And that's why Access is pretty useful with the named macros. So basically every time you change the order details stock change, it updates in the products table immediately once you close the order details. So you can keep changing it, and it's just a running total basically, and so you can keep track of inventory really quickly with macros. Thank you for watching my video. In my next video I'll show you how to do Visual Basic, how to do